Oh, sorry.
Yeah, only with the small people.
Okay.
You tell us when we start?
But it's also going to be streamed, huh? You know that. You have the link. Yeah. Okay. So you have the link live and you can follow it afterwards on YouTube. I send you all the link. If not, contact me. Okay, there we go.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Manon, Aubry, the co-chair of the Left Group in the European Parliament. I'm here with my other co-chair, Martin Schirdewan, and here with our two jury member, who's going to introduce themselves afterwards. And we wanted to have this press conference today to really say to what extent the process we're witnessing in terms of analyzing the conflict of interest of commissioners is a total joke, is totally flawed, is totally biased, and it's not there to deliver what we expect in terms of analyzing conflict of interest. Just to give you an idea, is like in the rules in theory, commissioners are supposed to be chosen from persons whose independence is beyond doubt. And the reality is that we have in front of us a sort of a members-only club whose analysis of conflict of interest is not there to deliver what we expect. To sum it up, and also because we have the past experience from 2019, and now we repeat the exact same mistake in the process. There are three main problems with the process that we're witnessing in terms of conflict, analyzing conflict of interest. The first problem is a limited scope of examination. We end up here analyzing declaration of interest of commissioners that are completely empty, and you cannot touch upon the main points. Take, for example, Hoepke Hoekstra, the new designated commissioner for climate and taxation. Is the new commissioner for climate while he's been working for the company Shell, and he's been working for McKinsey. By the way, I invite you to look at the previous commitments he's taken in front of the parliament to precisely to disclose the list of clients he's had when he was working for McKinsey. He's also the new commissioner for taxation, and he's been caught in the Pandora Papers, and he has a company in the British Virgin Islands, a Shell company. So this gives you just an idea of the type of conflict of interest we have, but the colleagues here in the jury committee will tell us that those are not the questions that are raised, because this is not part of the scope of examination of the conflict of interest. Second problem, you sit there and you have empty declaration of interest, and you have to rely on them. You have to trust them, because yes, the declaration of interest are the ones that are given by the commissioners. As if, for example, would ask a fox to guard the hen house. This is exactly the situation in which we are, because they make their own declarations. There's no power, no way to check it in a way or another. You just rely on self-declaration, and afterwards, well, you can ask merely questions, but you cannot investigate. You cannot do anything that an independent body could do. And last but not least, let me say it very clearly, that at the end of the day, it is a fake process. It's a fake process because there is not sufficient time to do proper scrutiny. It's a fake process because it's done beyond closed doors, and here there's a bit of pressure made on MEPs. You should not reveal what's going on in the room. Sorry? Aren't we talking about conflict of interest? Aren't we talking about the interest of people rather than the interest of parties? And I'm saying that because we do represent the left here. We do not have candidate commissioners, but some groups here have. And guess what they do? They defend their own candidates. I mean, to some extent, you cannot be so unhappy that some people defend their own commissioners. But if you play football and you have the goalkeeper going away when it's some teams they are playing against, well, one could question the process. And I think the process should be questioned. And this is why we stand here in front of you, angry that this process is not there to deliver what we could expect from a real conflict of interest analysis, to deliver a sort of a government, because the new commission is the new government, to deliver about public interest. And we stand here with the same request we've had 5 years ago. One, to have stronger financial declaration that are complete, public, and detailed, that you as journalists, you can access right away, that you can ask questions on, that NGOs, the public, can ask questions on. Second, to have a longer cooling off periods to stop the move back and forth from commissioners to the private companies, and you have a number of examples, we could get back to it. And third, to have a real independent ethics body. You remember that was our request already 5 years ago. In the meantime, the parliament voted a kind of an empty independence body. But this body is not in charge of the analysis of the conflict of interest. And in most big democracies, you actually have an independent body that is in charge of controlling the conflict of interest. I'm French, and together with Arash, we're both French. As MEPs in France, we had to fill in declaration of interest that are much more detailed than the one the candidate commissioner have. And with all due respect to my own mandate, I think we have less power than commissioners. Nevertheless, they have to provide less information than we do as MEPs under the French authorities. Because in France, there is a real independent ethics body that is called Haute Autorité pour la Transparence de la Vie Publique. That doesn't exist here. And at the end of the day, we are there again sitting in front of you with a process that is totally flawed, totally biased, and is not there to deliver what we expect, which is a real control of the conflict of interest. And this is why we will, a few years after the Qatargate, a few years after a number of scandals, would be the only group that will make sure that, ethics is stronger than money, and will make sure that the conflict of interest that exists are actually tackled by this institution, but eventually tackled by an independent body, because that is what is needed. I'll just pass the floor to Martin and then to our jury member.
Yeah, thank you very much for being with us today here at this press conference. You have almost said it also. I keep it very brief. I will just compliment a bit, touching upon the political dimension of the process. Manon pointed out how flawed the process is, how intransparent it is, and our two jury members, Mario Furore and Arash Saeidi, will get into the details of this flawed and transparent process. But I just want to let you know about yesterday's COP. And as you are aware, the CCC, meaning the Committee of the Conference of Committee Chairs, has made a proposal which has been very balanced and has sent it to the COP. And what then happened there was a bargaining process, a political bargaining process, somehow rebalancing the whole portfolios and also the committees in lead who are supposed to question the commissioners designate. And that was unbelievable, because what we saw there was a mirror of the composition of the College of Commissioners that Ursula von der Leyen presented, meaning a negotiation going on between the conservatives, mainly the conservatives, and the extreme right. And it left me speechless. Not only me, also other group chairs attending that meeting yesterday, but that was something like overwriting the whole proposal of the CCC that happened yesterday in the COP. And that is, of course, let's say, in the interest of Ursula von der Leyen, of her politics, what she is aiming at with the new College of Commissioners. We are well aware that many of the commissioners proposed have close ties to lobby firms, to consultant firms, also to, let's say, corporate finance, corporate enterprises, etc. But there's no commissioner designate anymore who has a portfolio that refers to employment or the social dimension of the European integration. And that is, of course, a political scandal that we will also raise in the hearings, where we will always be very tough on the commissioners to see if they have to deliver something on the social question, because this is, if we do not answer the social dimension or the social question, this is what only will further strengthen the extreme right, and then the next College of Commissioners presented in 5 years will be even worse than this one. Having said that, we will be very tough on the commissioners with close ties to corporate interests, because we fear that they will only serve those corporate interests. That means we have to be a bit inquiring there if they have a real conflict of interest or not. We will be very tough on those who were facing charges of corruption, so have been taken to court, facing those charges. We will be very tough on those who have, and this is public knowledge, been involved in passport scams, selling golden visas to third country citizens. We will be, of course, very tough on those commissioners presented by the governments run by the extreme right. And having said all this, I would like to give the floor to my two colleagues Mario and Arash by saying that we will not leave the EU being the playground of corporate interests of lobbyists, but that we will fight, that we will continue with our fight in the interests of the people of Europe. Please.
Yes, I want to talk in Italian in order to be more clear. Oggi abbiamo fatto questa riunione in Camera, quindi possiamo dire in generale solo quello per cui è stata la nostra linea politica e quello in cui ci siamo battuti. È chiaro che oggi questo processo ha mostrato tutte le sue lacune, perché quando, come diceva giustamente Manon, hai una dichiarazione finanziaria molto scarsa o vuota, abbiamo proprio dei problemi a dover chiedere poi quali sono gli eventuali conflitti di interesse. Quindi ci siamo mossi nella linea di chiedere sempre maggiore trasparenza per i cittadini, lo abbiamo fatto anche nell'interesse di quello che doveva essere anche la trasparenza tanto decantata dalla Ursula von der Leyen, che non c'è stata. Molti commissari, per esempio, hanno lavorato in multinazionali e in compagnie e non hanno neanche dichiarato i clienti con i quali hanno dichiarato in questi anni e che potrebbero entrare in conflitto con i propri portafogli qualora queste persone dovessero diventare commissari. Ancora abbiamo commissari che hanno aziende di famiglia che potrebbero entrare o operare addirittura con i portafogli stessi dei futuri commissari. Quindi abbiamo chiesto lettere di integrazioni, raccomandazioni, domande più specifiche, perché se ci dobbiamo basare sui documenti confidenziali che oggi abbiamo ricevuto non possiamo svolgere al meglio la nostra funzione. Quello che ho denunciato all'inizio proprio della Commissione, io con il mio collega Arash, è stato quello che questo processo è una completa farsa per come è concepito, quindi noi ci aspettiamo maggiore trasparenza, maggiore voglia di trasparenza anche proprio da Ursula von der Leyen e dai propri commissari. Non dobbiamo avere paura di essere trasparenti davanti ai cittadini. Se questa è l'Europa della trasparenza, siano loro i primi ad essere trasparenti con noi e con i cittadini.
Arash, to finish.
Je vais faire comme Mario, je vais m'exprimer en français pour être sûr d'être bien précis. Vous l'aurez compris, ce qui est en cause, ce n'est pas tellement le travail de la commission jury qui va au bout de ce qu'elle a le droit de faire. Ce qui est en cause, c'est la réglementation qui, tu l'as dit, est un peu une farce, puisqu'on demande à des commissaires de juger eux-mêmes de ce qui pourrait être un conflit d'intérêt ou pas et de déclarer ce qu'ils ont envie de déclarer en réalité. Et nous, ce qu'on réclame, c'est qu'effectivement, il y ait des pouvoirs d'investigation, de ne pas seulement se fier à ce que déclarent les candidats commissaires. Et par ailleurs, en tout cas pour ma part, mais je pense que c'est une position partagée, nous voulons que ce soit une autorité indépendante extérieure qui fasse ce contrôle, puisque nous, au Parlement, nous sommes un organe politique. Ensuite, nous avons des auditions pour juger de la pertinence de la désignation de tel ou tel commissaire, mais le contrôle juridique, a priori, devrait être fait par une autorité indépendante qui a les moyens de faire les investigations. Et ça, c'est pas juste pour embêter les candidats commissaires. On est dans une période où il y a une tendance au complotisme, où les citoyens ont tendance à se méfier de ce que nous faisons. Et moi, je pense qu'on a tout à fait intérêt à être très transparent pour montrer que 9 fois sur 10, il n'y a pas forcément de conflit d'intérêt, qu'il n'y a pas de complot, que les gens qui sont mis là, on peut ne pas être d'accord avec eux politiquement, mais qu'ils sont clean. Mais qu'en revanche, quand parfois il y a une brebis galeuse type Jérôme Cahuzac qui, à l'époque, a provoqué la mise en place de la haute autorité française, plus nous serons transparents, plus quand il y aura quelqu'un qui sera pris la main dans le sac, ça ne rejettera pas la suspicion sur les autres. Alors que si nous faisons les choses cachées derrière un rideau dans des salles closes, à chaque fois qu'il y aura un scandale qui éclatera, les gens penseront que tout le monde est égal et que tout le monde est pourri. Donc la transparence, c'est aussi pour que les citoyens fassent plus confiance en nos institutions et se disent que de temps en temps, comme dans le reste de la population, il peut y avoir des gens qui dérapent, mais que ce n'est pas l'ensemble de l'institution et que ce n'est pas l'ensemble du personnel politique.
we're happy to take up your questions if you have. Yes?
From the press, just a few questions. First of all, how many candidates Commissioner designated here scrutiny this morning? And if you can give us some more examples, you mentioned extra. Not possible, but I mean.
Well, there are two things. I think you can say whether you've covered all of them and how much time you've spent. But what you have to understand on your second question of like, what are the commissioners that are problematic? I'm going to list some of them, and I can tell you, none of those issues can be tackled by the JURI Committee because it's not in their responsibilities. Take the Italian candidate, Raffaele Fitto, who's been prosecuted in a number of judicial files. They are not all closed, but in terms of examples that you can give of lack of conflict of interest, one can question it. Similarly, if you take the Portuguese candidate, let me get her name right this time, Maria Luís Albuquerque, sorry. She's been working and advising, for example, Morgan Stanley, and she will be in charge of financial services. And she was, even as a finance minister, giving up some money for austerity measures to support banks, and then there's a question that can be raised. I can go on with the list if you want. I can talk about the Slovenian candidate commissioner, Marta Kos. She's worked for a consultant at CREAB, which is not known as such, but maybe here in the EU bubble you know it. CREAB is one of the largest consultancies for major companies, including Amazon, Google, BP. Do you think those representatives are the right representative of the EU people? Or are they representative of some lobbies, some companies? And I don't think that the current rules can allow to tackle it. And that's the biggest problem, is at the end of the day, the main issues are not tackled by the procedure, because you're gonna looking at, some just what they will declare in terms of financial assets. But it has nothing to do with actually what they've been doing, who they've been working for, and whether it raises a conflict of interest. And maybe the colleagues, you can say the time you've been spending on each candidate.
Many times.
C'est simple. Vous faites la division. On a passé 2h30 à 28 candidats. Très simple. 26, pardon. 26. On fait pas cela.
Then you went through the whole list. You went through the whole list.
Le problème is not. Le problème, c'est vraiment ce que tu dis, c'est la procédure elle-même. Parce que là, ce qu'il faut savoir, pour faire un petit truc un peu technique, on ne regarde même pas ce qu'ils ont fait dans la vie. Nous, on regarde vraiment est-ce qu'ils possèdent des actions et. Enfin, point. Donc. Évidemment qu'ils ne vont pas arriver avec des actions Shell, Total, machin. C'est plutôt qu'est-ce que vous avez fait avant dans la vie, pour qui vous avez travaillé, quels sont vos liens. Est-ce que derrière vous allez pantoufler dans telle ou telle entreprise? Quand on regarde le passé de certains, il y a des allers-retours public-privé permanents. Donc c'est plus ça, mais c'est pour ça que je dis, d'un côté, il y a le contrôle juridique de l'égalité sur les conflits d'intérêts purs, mais qu'un organe extérieur doit faire. Ensuite, nous, mais ça c'est au moment des auditions et c'est l'opportunité politique des choix que fait Ursula von der Leyen de mettre sur telle fonction quelqu'un qui a bossé dans la finance avant, de mettre dans une autre fonction quelqu'un qui a travaillé avec les grosses compagnies Internet américaines. Est-ce que l'opportunité politique de nommer ces gens-là, est-ce que vous le feriez vous? L'exemple que tu disais, est-ce que vous mettriez un renard dans le poulailler? La question, elle est là.
For many of them, you have requested more information.
Ça ne faut pas vous dire.
What sanctions could we face if you disclose information?
Abbiamo cercato di avere un metodo comune per tutti, questo lo possiamo dire, nel senso che abbiamo cercato di trovare un metodo per il quale si facessero una domanda delle raccomandazioni quando notavamo che le dichiarazioni finanziarie erano incomplete o quando volevamo maggiori informazioni su un'attività professionale passata, e lo abbiamo fatto con tutti, in modo tale che non ci fosse un accanimento per quel commissario o per quell'altro, ma che ci fosse un metodo condiviso ma obiettivo verso tutti.
if you break the in-camera meeting, yes, there are sanctions to the plan in the rules of procedure of the parliament, which is obviously it's normal that there are rules in the parliament, and we do respect the rules of the parliament, but we can question the fact that actually, you know, the conflict of interest analysis is done behind closed door. You should, as journalists, have access to it. You should have access to the declaration of interest. And if I may, in comparison between 2019 and 2024, if you look at the declaration of interest, or when you will look at it when they will be public, the biggest difference is that back in 2019, there were quite a few commissioners, if you remember, who had shares in big companies. It was the case of Borrell, it was the case of Gentiloni. And at that time, the JURI Committee recommended them to give out and to sell their shares. That was back in 2019. And what is interesting now, this time, all of a sudden, no commissioner has share in no company. It might mean to some extent that maybe they've been selling them before, maybe they have none. It looks like they're quite poor in general. So, I mean, and most of them have been commissioner before, minister before. They have interest, that's for sure. Just the declaration of interest doesn't allow you to know. And I think they've learned from between 2019 and 24. The candidate commissioners have learned, but the institution has not learned, and that's the main problem.
And also the other groups raised this issue on Fitto about his past trials, for example. Se anche gli altri gruppi hanno sollevato su Fitto i processi.
Non si può dire, però.
À la fin de la procédure, on aura le droit de vous dire. Non, c'est vrai. C'est dans une semaine, hein, c'est pas dans longtemps. Très rapide la procédure.
Did you ask any commissioner to come to the committee and speak for the deputies?
No, abbiamo chiesto di mandare domande e raccomandazioni e ci riaggiorneremo prossima settimana.
All right, we're good? No more question? Then to be followed. We hope not to be there in 5 years' time with the exact same complaint and things will have changed. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.